If you can't create the sounds that you imagine in your head when you're making music, you probably feel a bit stuck. You get frustrated by the limits of your sound palette, and it's exhausting and demoralizing to flick through hundreds of presets searching for a sound that's just not quite there in any of the libraries you have access to. Maybe you take a crack at trying to recreate it for yourself, but you're not really sure where to start. And then when you do start, you can maybe get some aspects of the sound right, but not the others. To get better at it, you might watch YouTube videos and follow tutorials of how to make different stuff. But no one's made a tutorial for the type of sound that you're trying to create. Maybe you pick up one or two techniques, but the next time you try to make the sound that you're imagining, you're just back where you started. With more bits and pieces of knowledge, sure, but nothing to string those bits of information together into a coherent view of how sound works and how you can work with sound to get the results that you want. In this video, I'm going to share a skill with you that will completely change your relationship to working with sound and break you free from the cycle of frustration that I just described. And I'm going to show you how anyone can start practicing it right away. And if you want to learn this skill directly from me in a live hangout, completely free, keep watching till the end. But first, let's talk about why this is important. I went to university to study music technology when I turned 18. It was one of the worst periods of my life for gender reasons, and my mental health was so poor that I failed my course and I flunked out after a year. Why am I oversharing like this? Because what I'm about to show you is the number one most impactful thing that I learned in that first year of university study, and it changed my creative practice forever. In fact, 6 years later, I went to a different university with a different program and managed to complete my degree after 2 years of hard study with tutors who were genuinely brilliant and inspiring artists themselves, picked up a lot of new information, learned a lot of stuff, had a lot of great experiences. This skill that I'm going to show you is still the most important skill I learned through any of that. In fact, it was probably the thing that allowed my music making to develop during that gap between starting and finishing university and stopped me from giving up on the whole thing entirely. It's the skill that allows me to develop as a producer even when I'm not actively making tracks, and I use it all the time. When I'm at the club, when I'm listening to the radio, when I'm digging for new music, giving feedback on people's tunes, I'm using it all the time. So what am I talking about? Well, you spend so much time learning to create music, but how much time do you spend learning to listen to music? Music as an art form is about communicating or exploring or just presenting ideas and feelings and emotions through sound. And that's what we're trying to do when we create music, right? We are organizing sounds to express something, even if that something is simply, hey, check out this cool sound that I made. When you listen to music, you feel and experience different things that it brings up in you without really thinking about how or why the music has the effects that it has. It's automatic, right? You just experience the sounds and they draw all of these associations for you and connect with you, communicate to you. Your listeners do the same thing. They experience the sounds that you put in front of them and they make connections and they feel things and they experience different stuff. And they might not feel exactly what you intended them to feel, but that's because everyone experiences art from a different perspective. That's what's so beautiful about it. And they do all of that without conscious thought, right? So you're expressing things in your music, maybe consciously or maybe without thinking about it, and your listeners are feeling something when they listen to it, probably without thinking at all. So how can you expect to be an effective musical communicator, an effective musician, if you don't understand the relationship between what you hear and how it makes you feel when you listen to a piece of music.
The practice of deep listening, as it has developed, explores the difference between hearing and listening. The ear hears, the brain listens, the body senses vibrations. Listening is a lifetime practice that depends on accumulated experiences with sound. Listening can be focused to detail or open to the entire field of sound. Listening is a mysterious process that is not the same for everyone. Humans have developed consensual agreements on the interpretation of sound waves delivered to the brain by the ears. Languages are such agreements. To hear and to listen have a symbiotic relationship with a questionable common usage. We know more about hearing than listening. Scientists can measure what happens in the ear. Measuring listening is another matter, as it involves subjectivity. We confuse hearing with listening. For example, music schools program ear training classes, but the ear can't be trained. What really happens is a cultivation of musical mind. I differentiate to hear and to listen. To hear is the physical means that enables perception. To listen is to give attention to what is perceived, both acoustically and psychologically. Hearing turns a certain range of vibrations into perceptible sounds. When listening, there is a constant interplay with the perception of the moment compared with remembered experience.
That was the late Pauline Oliveros, an experimental composer, academic, performer, and lesbian icon. She developed the concept of deep listening in the late 80s as a way to describe the process of focusing your attention on sound, all of sound, everything that can be heard, to notice not just the way that sound is perceived, but to attend to all of the different meanings and the contexts and the histories of the world around us and of ourselves and how we experience things, just through listening and sorting through all of that information and sorting through all of the things that sound can connect us to, the ideas, the environment, the natural world, the man-made, all of it is there inside of what we hear. And by listening to it deeply, we can connect to all of it and experience things in a new way. You should definitely go and look into Oliveros's work if you're interested, because it's absolutely fascinating. But what I'm proposing that you try is a much more specific and bounded practice that you can maybe describe as a kind of critical or engaged listening, specifically applied to music. If we can understand and accept that different meanings and different technologies and different ideas, different memories that people might have, or feelings or experiences or preferences that they have about different types of music or different sounds, whatever, if we can accept that all of that stuff is contained within a piece of music when we listen to it, an engaged listening practice can allow us to uncover what some of those meanings and technologies and associations, the different ideas contained inside of it might be. We can kind of pluck them out and consider them and understand how it is that the music communicated them to us. As producers, we're doing all of this meaning making and communicating stuff through the tracks we make, right? So it stands to reason that the music we listen to was created through a similar process. If we can listen to a piece of music and think about how it sounds, how it makes us feel, maybe try to identify some of the techniques or pieces of equipment that we use to create it, we can build up a vocabulary of musical and sonic techniques that produce certain effects on us in the finished piece of music. Like learning a language of musical meaning making. We get all of these ideas, all of these sounds, all of these techniques, and we can attach the feelings that they bring up in us to them. And then we can kind of like file them away and flick through and call on them when we need them. Listening to music and trying to unpack how it works is a great source of inspiration too. Even if you have no idea exactly how something was made or what it is about a particular melody that makes you feel the way it does, as long as you can come up with a hypothesis, a possible way that it could be done, you give yourself something to try next time you work on a track. If you try it out and it works for you, perfect. But if you try it and it doesn't work, maybe you discovered something else along the way, or you just uncovered a new technique that has a different result that you can use. Maybe it's just a new idea of what you can try next time. Over time, just by listening and reflecting and thinking about sound, you build up that library of ideas and techniques that you can call on at any time when you're making music. So how does engaged listening help you to break free from all of the frustrations of trying and failing to get the sounds that are in your head? Well, first of all, if you develop your ability to break down what you're hearing and identify the sounds within it, the next time you try to recreate something you've heard, you've got much better information about what exactly it is you're trying to recreate. But perhaps more importantly, engaged listening shifts your relationship to sound so that you're not just stuck trying to make things that you've heard before. That vocabulary of musical meaning, the library of sound generation and manipulation techniques that you build up through listening and reflecting and figuring things out, that's the stuff that lets you explore and experiment and find new ways to work with sound and music. You have the tools, the language, the raw materials to play around and express things that other people haven't expressed before. You get all of these colours in your palette and you can mix them together to make new colours that you haven't seen before. If I synthesize a cool kick drum and you listen to it and you break down what you can hear and you try to recreate it and you get it wrong, suddenly there's a new sound that didn't exist before, and it exists because of you. And instead of treating that as a failure to recreate what I made, we can treat it as a success to create something new and expand and push the characteristics that might be interesting about this new sound until it's something completely different to what I made. It's something that you made, and it has your unique perspective imprinted within it. And that's where the real juice, the real magic is, right? How many people are in your same position right now? People learning to make music with computers, watching videos here on YouTube, picking up techniques and tips and knowledge. Is it tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions? It's a lot, right? Let me ask you another question. How many of those people are achieving the goals that you want to achieve? Whatever that might be. Releasing music, building a following, working with labels, making a living from your art. How many out of those millions have gotten to where you want to get to? Probably not that many. So if you're doing the same thing that all those other people are doing, how can you expect to get results that the vast majority of people in your position aren't getting? Creativity, finding new things to express and new ways to express them, is the closest thing I've ever known to real life magic. I couldn't live without it, truly. Maybe you feel the same way. If you can do what other people won't do, if you can learn to listen while everyone else is learning to create, then you can express what other people can't express. Next time you're stuck or frustrated trying to make something, try listening and staying engaged and figuring out what you're hearing and how it might have been made. You might learn a thing or two, sure, but more importantly, you might just discover something for yourself. And hey, I've got some fun news. If you want to hang out with me and a group of other like-minded producers to listen to music and unpack it and try and figure out how it's all working, do all of this engaged listening stuff, I've just launched an exclusive community where you can do just that. It's completely free to join, but for obvious reasons, streaming something like this to YouTube or Twitch or whatever is a great way to get my account banned for using copyrighted content, even though it's for educational purposes and is therefore covered under fair use. The machine intelligences that police this kind of thing are not exactly known for their understanding. But the Outsider Sound community is a great place to hang out with other artists, to learn and to share your music and give and receive feedback to help one another grow as creatives, as producers, as engineers, as human beings. The link is down there if you want to join us. You'll get access to the link for the next Engaged Listening Hangout we are having over there. You'll be able to request tracks for us to listen to and break down, share your thoughts, learn this skill of engaged listening in a welcoming and inspiring environment, directly facilitated by yours truly. If you are looking to learn more sound design fundamentals and figure all of that stuff out, I've got a new course coming out very soon, next week in fact, as you are watching this. And these two things in combination, engaged listening and learning that strong foundation of synthesis and sampling and sound design, those two things in combination will give you the perfect boost through to that next stage of finding your own sound and stopping scrolling through presets and stopping trying to recreate what everyone else does and learning to just play and explore and not have to think about what you're doing and just coming up with amazing stuff just through your own creativity and enjoyment. Anyway, that's enough from me. Take care and I'll see you next time.